3 days after Lucas died, I tried to take my own life because I couldn't imagine my life without my son. I couldn't get out of bed. I just lay in bed all day. And I'm okay with that because this is grief and it is painful. And it's more painful at times than it is at other times. And I'm so accepting of that. A life is a gift. We really need to make the most of every single moment.
Welcome to the podcast, Death, a Changing Industry. Today we had the great pleasure to welcome Nicola Marshall. So first then, how did you get involved in this space of bereavement support for people?
Through a tragedy, and that tragedy was when my 12-year-old son Lucas died in an accident when we were on holiday in Spain in August 2019. I was making the lunch and then Lucas left the kitchen, and as I came out of the kitchen a couple of seconds after him to ask did he want mayonnaise on his sandwich, his friend came out the bedroom and said Lucas has gone over the balcony. And I couldn't really comprehend it because I was just talking to him in the kitchen. And I remember running through the apartment and looking over the balcony and seeing my son on the ground, 7 floors down. And I just remember running down 7 flights of stairs and then seeing Lucas fighting for his life, basically. And my brain couldn't comprehend what I was looking at. You know, I didn't know what I was seeing because literally that morning I was swimming in the sea with him. The night before we were in a restaurant having dinner and Lucas was, you know, thanking me for a fabulous holiday. He'd had a great holiday with his friend and me, and he said he'd, you know, done everything that he'd wanted to do. And and he'd been a couple of months before, he'd been to Thailand with his dad and he had a fantastic time there, but he said, no, Mum, but this is brilliant. I've had an amazing time and I'm excited about my future. So to then see my son struggling for his life was horrific.
His friend who was there as well, so was he the same age as Lucas? How was he as well at that time? And like as we move forward, his friend at that age in particular, how has he dealt with things moving forward?
To be honest, I haven't had much contact with him. I've seen him, but he's doing really well. I don't talk to him that often, not because I don't want to. You know, I kind of just let him get on, but he's doing amazing.
That's good.
He's doing really well in his chosen career, and honestly, I'm so proud of him where he is now.
That's good. And you mentioned that Lucas was talking about his future prospects and excited for the future, and he was involved in lots of things, wasn't he? Like his rugby.
He said he was either going to be an actor, a rugby player, or a singer. One of those things.
So a talented boy.
So he's a talented boy. And in fact, the day we were supposed to arrive back from Spain, he had an audition with the Voice Kids as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, amazing.
From that event, that life-changing, world-changing moment for you, you've now gone on to bereavement support for other people.
Well, that did not happen overnight, and I think that's really important to say. That first year without Lucas was horrific, and I really don't know much about that first year. I can't remember much about it, and I think it was just a case of surviving, you know, and putting one foot on the floor each day. I don't remember much about it, and I think anyone in the same situation as me will get that. You know, it's and then that second year, it was kind of more about the realization, oh my gosh, you know, my son has died and he's not coming back. Now what am I going to do? So the second year was probably more horrific than the first, because that first year I was just numb. And I just existed through it, I would say.
Stumbled,
Each day I would get up, and if I left the house, that was great. And if I didn't, I didn't. And also, you know, there's always people around me leading up to the funeral, and then possibly a week, 2 weeks after, and then everybody goes. And I'm on my own in the house. You know, I'm a single parent, and so there was no one there because people get on with their lives. You know, and it's kind of, well, hang on a minute, what about me?
And that calendar year as well, there were further challenges for you. You said your brother took his own life?
Well, my brother had taken his own life. I had Lucas in the 2006, and my brother had taken his own life in December 2006.
The same year he was born, okay.
Same year he was born. But I don't think I really grieved as much as I should have done for Paul, my brother. And it wasn't until Lucas died that I really started to grieve for Paul as well.
Yeah, it all came out.
It all came out.
What do you think that was? You didn't grieve for your brother?
Because I was a new mum and I was trying to support my mum, and I was overwhelmed, yes. And I, and I was just trying to make sure I was present for my son.
Yeah.
But I always remember, I remember, when I ran through that apartment and looked over the balcony and saw Lucas, I remember shouting, Paul, you were supposed to be looking after him. What happened?
Yeah.
So,
Connected to you though.
Always.
And again, with challenges, shortly after Lucas died, you went to a dark place yourself.
Yeah. 3 days after Lucas died, I tried to take my own life because I couldn't imagine my life without my son. He was, my life.
Yeah.
And I really put my life on hold to make sure that he had a good life, a beautiful life, because growing up I had challenges and I just didn't want Lucas to have those.
So your world now, physically, without him,
yeah,
emotion and love continues.
Yeah.
But physically, how does that look now for you? As in the work that you're doing, is that bringing you solace? Is it helping you?
Yeah, and the reason I got into it is because I went for grief therapy not long after Lucas died, and it wasn't a good experience. And so I decided to, once I was in a really good place, I said to myself, I'm going to retrain and help other people. And by helping other people, that helps me.
Yeah.
It really does.
And with the work that you're doing then, the help you're giving people, I mean, for people watching this now, what advice could you give to somebody who has a child that's died? What advice could you give to them to sort of reassure them that things are going to be different, but they will be okay?
Yeah.
What advice can you give?
The advice that I would give is hang on in there.
Yeah.
Because it's bloody tough. And it's not easy when you lose a child. And Lucas was my only child. And I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel initially.
Yeah.
And then I could. But I allowed myself the time and the space to just be and to grieve and to be miserable and to sit in the corner and not leave the house. I really just allowed myself to feel all the emotions that I needed to feel to understand that my son has died.
And you were on a TEDx talk recently, which is fantastic.
Thank you.
Your first public speaking.
Yes.
And I was blown away by it. But you mentioned on there about identity. As humans, we struggle with change because we get used to our identity. How have you adapted to create a new identity, and how do other people do that as well?
I'm not the person that I was 5 years ago. I lost that person the day Lucas died.
Yeah.
But I'm a different version of me. I actually really like myself.
Yeah.
I really love myself because I think, I've been through a hell of a lot. And the reason that I did the TED Talk and the reason I do what I do is to say to other people, no matter how low you are, whatever's going on in your life, whatever that is, there is help out there.
Yeah.
There's help. It's about finding the right help, but it's also about surrounding yourself with the right people.
Yeah.
And knowing that we all have that resilience inside us.
Yes.
It is there, and it's finding it.
Yeah.
And when you find it, hold on to it and help that pull you up.
Regarding identity, something that Lucy Biggs, who you know, is
yeah,
a friend
I do
of
know
yours,
Lucy.
So she's been a guest on the podcast, and she speaks. So she lost her son Reuben died, and she has 2 living children.
Yeah,
and that's the language and communication. I've learned so much from her because her identity, like you say, he's your son, and he always will be your son.
Yeah.
Again, it's our understanding and our how we view it, how we see it, how we feel it now.
Yeah.
I think historically it's a case of, well, that's difficult.
Yeah.
Can leave that alone. But Lucy, she really opened my eyes up. Like they're living children. Reuben is still part of their family.
Yeah.
That isn't unhealthy. I think some people would see it and go, oh, they're not letting go, or it's not. But no, it's not about letting go. It's about moving forward. It's about taking them with you.
Absolutely.
But I think until you go through this, it's very difficult to understand what we're saying here.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know, but I know when I was younger, I wasn't allowed to go to my grandparents' funeral, which for me, I'm like, now I look and thinking, why? But I remember at Lucas's funeral, there were so many of his friends there. I think there was almost 1,000 people there.
Yeah.
And one thing I can never forget is when I came out of the church, all the children around me, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And they all wanted me to hug them, and they were crying, and they wanted to talk. And one thing I did say, I managed to get up and speak at Lucas's funeral, and I did say to everyone, if you see me in the street, please don't cross over. Please come and give me a hug, because I really might need it at that time.
Yeah.
And tell me something about Lucas. Tell me a funny story or a story that I would never know about him.
Amazing.
And and they did, and they do, and and recently his friends were contacting me saying he's going to be 18. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Again, for those children, then they were grieving.
Yeah.
They need a platform and an environment to grieve.
Yeah.
And again, why is our relationship in this country? Why are we so detached? Why are we so distant from death? And before you answer that question, going back slightly to what you've been through and my experience of it, and obviously I'm around it every day with looking after bereaved people, so are you. Do you have to go through trauma or a close death to understand it? Can you have an understanding of it without having to go through it?
I didn't know how this felt. I did not know how it felt for a child to die. I did not know that. I know how it felt when my brother died. I know how it felt when my best friend died. But to lose my son threw a completely new light on everything. The pain that I have, I've never felt pain like it in my life. And I definitely felt, a part of me was ripped out when Lucas died. And what I bring now into my therapy sessions is that I don't know exactly how the person in front of me feels, because it isn't my grief. But I have so much compassion around it, because I can imagine. I've been on the floor with that pain. And you know what? The pain doesn't go away, but I think that you definitely grow around the pain.
Yeah.
You definitely grow bigger than it.
So years on then, do you find yourself going back into that level of pain that you were in initially when Lucas died?
Yes, I do. And definitely the body does keep the score. And it was 5 years in August since Lucas died. And leading up, my body started to ache. My body understood that there was some massive trauma that went on 5 years ago. And I'm big on self-care, and I really have to take care of myself around the time when Lucas died. I find that more painful than when it's coming up to a birthday.
Yeah. Is it like, again, your body's triggered?
My body's triggered, my body aches, I get extremely tired. The day before the 20th, I couldn't get out of bed. I just lay in bed all day. And I'm okay with that, because this is grief.
Yeah.
This is grief, and it is painful. And it's more painful at times than it is at other times. And I'm so accepting of that. And I just allow the emotions to flow through me.
It's good.
I really do. That's so important.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, because they're not used to these emotions, they think of having, the amount of times families I'm looking after will say to me, I'm sorry for crying. And I'm saying, don't apologise to me. It's absolutely, this is part of it, unfortunately. that's the cost, that's the price of love, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hey guys, thank you for watching the video so far. I hope you're really enjoying it. Please click the thumbs up on the video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, a huge thank you to our sponsors. Their details are found in the video description just below. Thank you so much.
So moving forward then, so the sessions that you do, how do you help people? What sort of things are you able to facilitate to help?
Well, the first thing I do is I meet people where they are with their grief, and I hold space and I witness their grief. And I think that's really important. And I use, I'm really intuitive as well when I meet people. And so I listen to them and I hear where they are and what it is they think they need, because they know better than anyone what they need. And I'm just there in service to them. So, you know, and that can be, we talk. I love bringing my hypnotherapy into it because it is such a deep, deep relaxation.
Yeah.
And they don't need to tell me exactly what's going on. If they don't want to, their brain can figure that out for them.
Yeah.
So I'm very intuitive when I'm with a client, and I just allow them the space to talk, and I just witness their grief and just meet them where they are.
Yeah, you adapt to their needs.
Adapt to their needs. It's really important.
And
I don't allow them to say sorry either.
Good.
I don't like that, because I'm like, please don't apologise. This is an apology-free zone.
Yeah. And so interestingly then, hypnotherapy.
Yeah.
We have done a podcast, we touched on hypnotherapy in a previous podcast with Jen Brown. What does hypnotherapy look like if I was to book a session with you? What do you do? I know it's about holding space, you mentioned that.
Well,
But for someone who's no idea at all about it, what happens?
I always say that hypnotherapy is like, if you think of a set of stairs, and at the bottom you're asleep, the top you're wide awake, and in the middle, that's when you go into deep trance. And basically we bring the subconscious mind forward and we speak to the subconscious mind. But I will have had a conversation with you before, and I will pick up words that you're using, and then I'll just use those words back to you. And you can be sitting here now with your eyes open and you can go into trance just like that.
Wow.
It's really lovely.
Am I in a trance now? I do feel very relaxed in your company. So.
Yeah, it's really good.
Good. And you mentioned as well off camera that you will use hypnotherapy to help families who weren't there. Yeah,
I do a lovely, lovely hypno where I put the client in a garden and just allow them a real deep relaxation. And then I bring a healer in, and then I take them to the bottom of the garden where they can speak to their person. Their person will come through like a gate, and then they can speak to their person. And the great thing is about that, their loved one. And the great thing is about that is they don't need to say it out loud. It all happens in the mind, and it is so healing.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I can see the client will cry, and I just leave them. I'm quiet, and I can see, I'm watching the facial expressions, I'm watching their eye movements, and I can see that they're doing the work.
Yeah.
And that is so healing.
Yeah.
So healing.
I'm with a lot of families who say that they weren't able to be there when their person died, and it can create a lot of guilt for them.
Yes.
And a lot of anger and frustration, and it actually hinders them moving forward. So I imagine that's really, really helpful.
It's such a lovely tool to help them.
Yeah,
it really is, and they can have that as many times as they want, you know.
Wonderful.
But I always ask, you know, would you like to do that? I don't just do it because, you know, some people get a little bit nervous around it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's beautiful. And sometimes people come in who they were not expecting. So
wow.
It's amazing, really amazing.
That's stunning. So that's your work. And again, I think it's so important what you're doing. As a society, what can we do to improve our nation's relationship with death? And my question to you is, I keep saying we need to improve it. Do we need to improve it? And what's your views?
I definitely think we need to improve it, because one of the things that, you know, always when people say to me, oh, I just don't know what to say.
Yeah.
And I say, well, or I don't know how you're coping. And I say, just ask me how I'm coping and I'll tell you.
Yeah.
You know, or when people would do side head, you know, they'd catch me in the supermarket and they'd do side head, I'd literally put their head up and say, please don't do side head. I can't bear it.
Yeah.
But I think we need to talk. As a nation, we definitely need to talk about death and about grief.
Yeah.
You know, because like I said in the podcast, without death, we don't have life, and without life, we don't have death.
Yeah.
So it's something we need to get used to talking about. It's part of life.
And how do you think we tackle that?
I think we talk about it in a normal manner. You know, there's nothing to kind of hush about it. I always remember speaking to my friend's father, who was end of life, and he was so worried, you know, that his son was going to be okay when he died. And I said, he will definitely be okay. You know, he has an amazing set of friends around him. He's got all of us. And, you know, it's okay if you go. And he was really holding on, his dad, because he didn't know what was going to happen to the son. And I said, we're all here for him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I think it's really important we just talk about death, because it is part of life.
Yeah.
We normalise it.
What you've said at Lucas's funeral is, you said, don't cross the road when you see me.
Yeah.
And that's massive, because so many people, if they're in doubt, I'll leave that one.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. And I'll always, if somebody, you know, bumps into me and say, how are you doing? I'll always say, yeah, I'm doing really good, thank you. Or I'm not, whatever the day is. If I'm not doing good, I'll say, not so great today. And then I will bring Lucas into the conversation, because I don't want them to tiptoe around it.
Yeah.
So I'll say,
I'll bring you in.
Yeah, exactly.
You're coming in.
Yeah, you're coming right into it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'll say, well, you know, it was Lucas's 18th birthday. We had a really nice celebration at his bench in the middle of Knutsford. Right. So, yeah, I will always start to talk about Lucas, so that then they feel comfortable, I guess.
Yeah, you're setting the tone almost,
Yeah.
Do you feel close to Lucas now?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you asked me that question, actually. I absolutely love my son. I adore him, and anyone who saw us together, they couldn't believe the connection that we have. Such an amazing connection. For me personally, I think I've had many lives with him, many. And I just didn't know that this life was going to be so short. And I feel that if it can be, I don't know, I absolutely love him more. Even more than I loved him when he was here.
Yeah.
The love I have for him, and the appreciation and the gratitude. I'm so glad he chose me to be his mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because we spoke as well off camera about energy.
Yeah.
And when we die, it's not the end. And again, I know lots of people have different views about what happens when we die. I agree with you. I don't think, my personal opinion is, I don't think it is the end.
No.
I've seen too much stuff. I've felt too much stuff, and you know, with death, it's not the end.
No.
Love does carry on.
Yeah.
There's science that proves that now.
Yes.
So when people think, oh, here he goes again.
Yeah.
That's fact. That's proven by scientists.
Yeah.
What's your views on that? Like, where do you sit with end of life? What do you believe?
Well, like, you know, I just said, didn't I? I just touched on it. I said I've had many lives with Lucas.
Yeah.
So when Lucas died, and he died in front of me, I saw his soul leave his body. I saw that energy come out of his body. And so for me, I know, or I feel that life goes on in a different way.
Yeah.
But I do feel that there is other things beyond the veil, let's say. Yeah.
I read a book when I was in the military called Many Masters, Many Lives.
I love that book.
Yeah. And it's a very interesting... I was away for a long time, and I read that when I was away. It's quite interesting. You know, a 19-year-old lad on board a warship.
Yeah.
Most lads are like reading the Nuts magazine.
Biz.
And I was reading Many Masters.
Yeah, I love that book.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Brilliant book. I do have a story about that, which I will talk to you about later, maybe.
Okay.
But yeah.
Can you tell us now?
Yeah. Well, I did a regression, but I didn't regress. I went forward.
Oh wow.
And I died literally. And I remember being sat in the chair and feeling myself go smaller and smaller, and like really as though I was really aging.
Yeah.
My voice changed, and I then said, oh, I'm going to die. I can feel I'm going to die. I'm old and I'm going to die, and my heart's stopping. I'm scared. And then I said, no, I'm not scared. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm good. And I remember feeling as though I was going down, and then next thing I was lifted up. And there was the most amazing light and energy. Oh my gosh. And it was so beautiful. And I felt so much love and so much gratitude. And I saw Lucas, my brother, Adriana, my friend who died, my grandparents were there, and I just kept going higher and higher and higher. And it was just euphoric. The amount of love and peace was unbelievable. And I didn't want to come back. And then I remember I got to a very, very high, and then I just saw a huge line of people, and they all bowed, and I saw that was my ancestors throughout my lives. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I just remember going higher and higher, and it was just so beautiful. And then I came back.
What state was that in? Was that in hypnosis?
Yeah, it was in hypnosis.
Amazing.
It was beautiful.
Yeah. Do you think then, because you obviously have, you're very connected to your end of life.
Yes.
And I think some people think I'm morbid.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a funeral director. I'm immersed in what I do. Campaign for bereavement awareness. A podcast called Death: A Changing Industry. Am I morbid?
No, not at all.
I don't think I am.
You're not morbid at all. This is just, you've been chosen to do this. You're doing this because it not only does it help you in your life and whatever you're learning about, but it helps other people. And so this is, you know, it's just a vocation, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's, I love it. I love helping people. I love sitting and listening to them tell me about their loved ones. I absolutely love it.
And yeah, I totally agree. And something that I would say, which I've never shared before, especially on a podcast, but
I've just shared that.
You've done something to me.
I know.
I'm in a hypnotized state. So we talk about creating goals, like where you want to be in 5 years' time and 10 years' time. In my head, and it's something that I really believe in, and something that I want to move towards more, is I think people should concentrate more and think about and be aware of what they want their environment to be when they die.
Absolutely.
So, and that's not just about the space you're in, but to be aware of that I think is healthy. But also, on a bigger scale, how do you want to feel about yourself before you die? The moments before, how do you want the people around you to feel about you before you die, or as you're dying? I think it's a very powerful exercise to be connected to your past, but also to be connected to your future. I mentioned it because that's what you've just said.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow.
Yeah. I want people to just be calm, happy for me, because I've got to an age, I believe that I will be here for quite a few years yet. And I'm so grateful for each day, because, you know, so many haven't got this far. So every day I am so grateful. And I want people to think, you know what? She did something. She helped other people in that time that she was here. And she had a good life. Yes, her son died, but she's with her son now.
Yeah.
That's what I want people to say. And, you know, something, you know, that I know that we talked about as well. Since Lucas died, I have no fear.
Yeah.
I'm fearless, because I feel the worst thing that could have happened to me personally has happened to me. So I'm like, bring it on.
Yeah, yeah. You're truly living, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm truly living. And I realise how precious life is. Because literally, you know, an hour before Lucas died, we were swimming in the sea.
Yeah.
Talking about his future.
And like that.
And just like that, gone.
Yeah, yeah.
Gone. So yeah, life is precious. And I think I want people to not worry about aesthetically how they look and what people are thinking about them, and just live for the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
And stay present.
Yeah.
And that's so important.
We waste so much time. People worry about what people think. I just don't care anymore.
I don't care. stay in your lane.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter what other people think or say about you. It matters only how you feel about yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know when I'm doing therapy, and I don't just do grief therapy, I do for lots of different things, but I always want to bring the best out in people. And I want them to see what I see. When they come in the room, I want them to see what I see.
Yeah.
You know, and we are pretty much amazing, you know, and this is a life is a gift. And I think we really need to make the most of every single moment.
So, the future of Nicola Marshall, where do you see your future going, and how do you want to help more people?
Well, I'd like to do more charity stuff, definitely.
Yeah.
And I'm writing a book, so I need to pull that together, the time to pull that together. But I'd also like to do more speaking gigs as well, because I love doing the TED Talk. It was hard, but I really enjoyed doing it. So I'd love to do more, you know, get out there and do more public speaking.
Fantastic. Well, we'll put a link to the TED Talk on this podcast as well, just so it shares it out even further. I feel inspired talking to you. You mentioned before about the tribe.
Yes.
When you find people in the tribe.
Yes, we need a tribe.
That's it.
I think, you know what, it's really important that we, you know, and it's not just about grieving with people who get you. It's about also in life just finding the people that get you and surrounding yourself with the right people. And it's okay to let people go.
Yes.
You know, that you've outgrown or that just don't get you. It's okay to let those people go, because then you make space for the other people to step in.
Yeah.
And I think, again, you know, grieving as a tribe is important, because when we share our emotions and we allow our emotions the motion, then it helps us mentally and physically, you know, because when you start to depress and push things down, that's when it comes out in all kinds of not so great ways. So again, surrounding yourself with a tribe, whether it's your grief tribe or whether it's your cool tribe or whatever, just those people who could hold you up when you cannot hold yourself up.
Yeah.
You know, and we all go through that because it's hard being human.
Yeah, yeah, challenges.
Yeah.
But like you say, in the right environment though, we can all thrive.
Absolutely. And I think one of the big things as well is love. We need to start to love each other more, you know, and be kind, because I think that's the answer, because we've become very insular, a lot of people, and I think it's about, you know, just being kind.
Yeah.
And that can be kind. I mean, I always do it. I'll be walking in the high street and say, oh my gosh, I love that outfit, on someone I don't even know. Or you look fabulous.
Yeah.
There's no harm.
Yeah.
You know, you never know what day that person's having.
Yeah, and like you said, actually doing those small acts of kindness, which we spoke about before on this podcast with Reverend Gary Ward's.
Yes, you do.
You know, cutting the next door neighbour's grass for them. You know, these little things. Yeah. It doesn't require much, but the impact is huge on society and our surroundings and environment.
Yeah.
So.
Massive. Yeah.
Nicola, thank you so much for your time. It's great to meet you. I'm sure we'll be speaking again in
I
the
hope
future.
so. It's so lovely to meet you, and thank you so much for inviting me onto this amazing podcast, and you helped so many people. Thank you, John, for all the work you do.
Nicola, thank you so much.